Good morning, my YouTube videos. It is Palestine here. It was about 10 minutes past 9 this morning when I'm getting ready to go to my day job. And basically, I had a choice. I was planning to make a data science video, so I could make a data science video, or I could make a video on my other channel, Palestine's Cancer Journey. And I decided, since when I looked at the clock, it was 9:06, I wasn't going to be able to make a data science video in time before I went to work. And the reason why is because sometimes I have to make a video 2 or maybe even 3 times. And so I wouldn't be able to do it and load it and everything in 24 minutes. And since I've just gotten ready for work, my hair's done, I put on a little bit of mascara, I'm as fresh as I can be in the morning before I go to work. So I thought, well, I'll go ahead and make a video for my cancer channel. And the video that I wanted to make this morning is because yesterday my boyfriend went to this church called Wycliffe. And then if you live in England, they call it Wycliffe, but I call it Wycliffe. And Wycliffe Baptist Church, they were having a anniversary, 25th anniversary of the warehouse. And my boyfriend used to go to the warehouse, and he really liked going to the warehouse because a lot of the people that went to the warehouse were really not very well on their luck. They were down on their luck and not very highly educated. And so he just felt like he didn't feel inferior to them, because my boyfriend, he feels inferior to people a lot of the time. And that was brought about by his brother, because his brother used to assault him, and verbally and physically. And his brother would say really nasty things to him. And as a result of that, my boyfriend doesn't feel very confident about his abilities and about himself. So he would go to the warehouse, and he wouldn't feel inferior. He wouldn't feel like he wasn't good enough. So he went to the warehouse. So now we're going to another church. We go to a church called St. John's, and most of the people that go to St. John's are middle class, which I don't have a problem with that. I know I'm destitute, but I also know that I'm not uneducated, and I know that I'm more highly educated than many other people at St. John's, so I don't have a problem with that. But my boyfriend goes to St. John's, and he feels like he's not good enough. He feels inferior because St. John's is a middle-class oasis within a council estate, because we're living on a council estate. And then so basically yesterday at Wycliffe Warehouse, they had this 25th year anniversary of the opening of the warehouse. And so they decided they were going to have this big event commemorating the 25th anniversary. And so my boyfriend was invited, but I wasn't invited. But I guess if I wanted to go, I could have gone, because I've been to the warehouse. But I wanted to go to St. John's. The reason why I wanted to go to St. John's is because I've been going there for a few years now. I serve tea and coffee for them, and I sing for them. And I thought, well, I don't want to not go. I don't like flipping around from church to church. And then my dyslexic friend goes to church with us, and I told him if he wanted to, he could go to Wycliffe with my boyfriend, and my boyfriend could take him to Wycliffe. But he said he didn't want to go because he'd never been there before. So I went to St. John's with my dyslexic friend to church. And, you know, obviously you have to be careful, because my boyfriend wasn't there, and so people were probably giving us some odd looks, because obviously people know that there's problems in our relationship, and the reason why is because I ask people to pray for us. And then my boyfriend went on to Wycliffe. Well, I thought that he was just going to go to the service and meet me at home afterwards. But apparently they had a really big service, and they had lunch afterwards. And so my boyfriend was talking to the lady that sent him an email invited him to the special event, and her name was Elizabeth, and she's a doctor in a neighborhood. And then so basically, we found out that somebody we both know has died, and his name was Doug. Now, I met him at Prospect Park Hospital when I was a patient there the first time, because I was made to stay there against my will. And so I met him, and we were talking and everything, and we swapped numbers and everything like that. And I know he has bipolar. He was telling me about bipolar, and he actually took me to dinner, and definitely took me to drinks. I don't remember if we had dinner, but he definitely took me to drinks. And so I didn't know at the time that he was going to Wycliffe, but he was going to Wycliffe and also a Bible study. And then I met him at Mr. Cod one time because he was going to a home group, which I didn't know anything about that. So we sort of knew each other, and if we saw him on the streets one time, we'd say hello. But one time I very nearly got hit by a car because he wanted to stop and talk to us at a crossing. So that was quite dangerous, to want to stop and talk to people at a crossing. But he was bipolar, which is a mental illness. And then I got sectioned a second time. First time I got sectioned is because I wrote a letter to David Cameron. The second time I got sectioned was because my flat was being vandalized, and the police wouldn't do anything about it. And I was really upset, and so the neighbors complained about me, but now I believe it was actually the neighbors who were vandalizing the flat, but it was the neighbors complaining about me. It was the church that I went to. I don't go to that church anymore, but the church was complaining again about me. And this doctor that I went to see had me phoned Prospect Park and had me sectioned, and it was because my flat was being vandalized and people were doing things in my flat, and nobody would help me. And so I got sectioned for that. And then so Doug actually was sectioned at the same time that I was sectioned, and basically he was in another ward. When the second time I was sectioned, I think I was in Bluebell ward, and he was in Daisy ward. And so I saw him, and I saw him at Prospect Park, and he actually had to have people go to town with him. He couldn't go on his own. And one time he actually came onto the ward to see me. But the thing is he wasn't supposed to do that. I'm sure if anybody had found out that he had gone onto a ward to see me, he would have got in big trouble. And he was on the highest dose of risperidone there is, because risperidone is a drug that they use to treat bipolar. And at that time, I think he was on 16 or something like that. He was on risperidone is a very strong drug. It's a mind-altering drug, and it's a dangerous drug. And he was on the highest dosage there is. And the thing about when you're on risperidone, you can't walk very well. So he was always shuffling because you can't walk very well on risperidone. So that was the second time I saw him. I saw him at Prospect Park twice. First time he was in the same ward as me, Daisy ward. The second time I was in Bluebell and he was in Daisy, but he did actually come to see me. So I knew Doug. And he also went to Wycliffe, and I went to Wycliffe Warehouse a few times. I've been to Wycliffe before. And then, so yesterday, when my boyfriend was talking to this lady, Elizabeth, who is a GP, she said that he died. She didn't say what he died from, so we don't know what he died from. But what I do know is when I was doing my research about mental illness and how corrupt the mental health profession is, that people who are on psychiatric drugs live a lot less time than people who are not on psychiatric drugs. So if you are on psychiatric drugs, your life expectancy is going to be a lot less than someone who isn't on psychiatric drugs, because psychiatric drugs cause a lot of problems. One of the things that they do is they give you something called Syndrome X, which makes you an apple shape. So you put all your weight on around your middle, and apple shape is a very unhealthy shape to be. And so, just like one of the drugs that I was on was aripiprazole, and then when you look at the side effects, one of the side effects is death. So yeah, one of the side effects of aripiprazole is death, but they are still giving this drugs to people who they deem to be mentally ill. And so I haven't looked at the side effects of risperidone, but I'm sure there's a lot. And risperidone makes you really tired where you don't want to wake up. And so if you're on risperidone, quite often you will wet the bed because you don't want to wake up, and you'll just wet the bed in your sleep. So it is a very dangerous drug. So I don't know for sure what Doug died from. I do know he was Syndrome X. He put his weight on around the middle. I do know he was on the highest dosage of risperidone there is. So he was on maximum dosage. So yeah, so somebody and a friend of mine who I met at Prospect Park Hospital and I saw in town, and somebody who was part of the mental health community, and he was forced to take psychiatric drugs. One time I saw him in town and he wasn't taking his psychiatric drugs, and you could tell that, obviously he wasn't behaving like he behaved when he was on psychiatric drugs. And obviously the authorities don't like that. If they deem you to be mentally ill, they want you to take your psychiatric drugs because they don't want you to make waves. They don't want you to cause problems. If you make waves, they can give you a CTO, that's a community treatment order, and they can forcibly inject you, and there's nothing that you can do about it. So the authorities are very dangerous people. I personally do not feel safe around any psychiatric workers because of the power that they have, that they can get somebody sectioned, they can get somebody forcibly injected with psychiatric medication, they can get a CTO on somebody. So I don't know what Doug died from. I just know he was on the highest dosage of risperidone there is. So I'm sure that had something to do with his failing physical health. So that's the conclusion of my video. I just wanted to let you know that somebody who I know, who I knew him personally, I met him at Prospect Park twice, and I saw him at Wycliffe a few times. I saw him in town a few times. And I knew that he had bipolar because he told me. I knew that he was on the highest level of risperidone because he told me. And he died. And I'm not sure exactly how old he was. I don't think he was a few years older or younger than me, but I'm not sure exactly his age. But if you're on psychiatric medication, from what I researched on the internet, your life expectancy is going to be 68. So he did die. So, yeah, I've got 3 years to go before I reach my life expectancy. So we'll see how that goes. So thank you very much for watching my video. If you like my video, please like and subscribe. I will be making another video for you soon because on Wednesday I have my dental appointment, which I'm not looking forward to. But I definitely will make a video when I've had my dental appointment. Bye.